Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Talking Tradesman. Today I have Pixie from Pixie Heating. Best person to explain why she's here, who she is and what she does would be Pixie herself. So Pixie, first of all, thank you very much for giving up your morning on a Saturday and coming to see me. Let's talk.
Brilliant.
So, a little bit about yourself. Tell me who you are, what you do, and all the rest of it, as it were.
Yeah, I'm a heating engineer.
Sorry, Pixie, do you want to pull your mic in a little bit closer to you there? Just so everyone can hear you clearly.
There we go.
That's
better?
it. Yeah, perfect.
Cool.
Let's go. So, what is it that you do?
I am a heating engineer.
Okay.
So get to run around fixing, breaking boilers.
Fixing, breaking boilers. Okay, quick question. Favourite boiler?
Valent.
Worst boiler?
Oh, the Worcester Green Star.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I know they're reliable and all that jazz, but I keep losing bits of skin off the back of my knuckle.
Oh, really? They're a bit sharp, sharp to work on. If you're listening, Worcester, blunten those boilers up a bit on, heating engineers' recommendations. Let's make it a little less dangerous. Yeah. So you enjoy it?
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely has its days, but the freedom is the most important thing. Yes, you're a slave to your diary and your phone, but being out in the van on the tools, it's so much nicer.
I suppose, so we are currently recording towards the middle of September. The weather's just started to dip. It's going to get busy for you in a month or two, isn't it?
Silly season has begun.
Yeah, first fire up of the boiler.
Yep, that's been this week. I've already had a couple of breakdowns already with knacking expansion vessels, and it's going to be a busy couple of months.
Do emergency call-outs?
Oh, I do. Not at 3:00 in the morning, not that much of an emergency. The phone does go off at 8.
Yeah,
things like that. But the odd weekend appointment will have to start kicking in soon.
So just to get a bit of background, what took you into the heating game?
I was working at a merchant's in retail and I didn't like the job. The pay was rubbish. The hours were even worse. And because I was dealing with tradies every day, I was starting to get to know the products, know them. And I thought, why don't I
go the other side of the till? Yeah.
Yeah, it can't be that stupid. He's dumb as a bag of rocks. I'm sure I can do it. And then, did night school, did the apprenticeship, and haven't looked back since.
Fair play to you as well for doing it that way. Because not to knock anyone that does it coming out of school, but doing it as an adult where you have to do what you've just said, like night schools, and you're doing it on top of what you're already doing to stay afloat. It's like extra commitment, isn't it?
Yeah, especially going into it as a 30-year-old. Everybody there is about half your age. They're used to schooling. You've been out of it for years and then coming back in. Yeah, that was a bit jarring at first.
All credit though. Like I said, it's one of those things. People quite often throughout their lives, they find themselves in positions that they don't want to be in, sometimes through no fault of their own. But once you've recognised it, it's those that do something to change it. It was Einstein's saying that was the definition of madness is to do the same thing and expect different results. So, fair play to you for making the change.
Yeah, thank you. It took a lot of work, and a lot of stubbornness, and taking the pay cut as well, because going in as an apprentice, you were on the apprentice wage, which was horrendous.
What was it back then?
£3.30. My employer looked after me and paid me more than that, but still, it wasn't the living wage. That wasn't until year 2.
Yeah, it's one thing, isn't it? Like taking a pay cut, but £3.30 as an adult. If you're 15, 16, and you're just out of school, you're still living at home, and your options are £3.30 or nothing because you're in sixth form, it's not bad. But
no, because you can save up for a driving license and start getting your independence. But as a fully, alleged grown up. It was awful. Yeah, that took a hell of a rock, and the credit cards took a hit as well. But when all that got paid off, when I finally got qualified, it was brilliant.
How long did it take you from point one, walking through the door into your training, to being out on your own? How long was that?
5 years, I think. Yeah, it's a long time.
Glad you did it.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's all right. That's all it's about then, isn't it?
Yeah. There were a few conversations at the start, especially from my dad. Why do you want to do something like this? And as soon as I explained what the starting wage was and what I could potentially earn, he's like, "Yep, go on, daughter, you can do this."
Yeah, but fair play though. It's that thing, isn't it? Investing in yourself.
Yes.
So there's no better investment that you can make in life. The thing with money, you can always earn more. Knowledge, there's no price on that. Once you're a heating engineer, like it would take something substantial for you to wake up in the morning and have forgotten all of it. So now you've invested in yourself, that'll pay forward for the rest of your lifetime.
Yeah. Exactly.
It must also be cool to know that if something goes wrong at home, you're fully equipped to sort it out.
That has happened a couple of times with the boiler breaking down. And then, this morning with the toilet breaking. That was fun. I'm going to have a fun trip up to the merchants on Monday to get all that replaced. But knowing that I can do it myself is fantastic.
So when you trained, I mean, we were a bit trade related at the minute. We will get into why you wanted to come in a moment. But so in terms of like being a heating engineer, when you did your training, was it plumbing and heating?
Yeah, they taught both.
Okay.
So I could potentially do anything from taps and toilets, bathrooms to full heating installs.
Right. But then you've chosen to then specify heating.
As soon as I got my hands on that first boiler and started, doing my gas rates and all of this, I thought, this is what I want to do.
Yeah.
Using just enough of the little grey cells to keep me entertained during the day, but enough physicality to be able to do something, but not too much of either to either leave me completely knackered or brain dead by the end of the week.
It's a big consideration. Yeah, I mean, it's something I'm looking into with my business is making those investments that now make it easier on the body. Picking something where, because to be honest with you, the plumbing side of it, like around the back of toilets and all that kind of thing. Nah, it's not. And the knees take a pounding.
Yep. I was it second year apprentice. I damaged my shoulder. I snapped a couple of ligaments and I couldn't actually lift my arm up.
Yeah.
I was useless for months because you couldn't lie down on the floor to get underneath to do the taps. I couldn't pass a screwdriver because I literally couldn't lift my arm up above my shoulder. Yeah.
It's tough work. And it's small spaces most of the time, isn't it, with bathrooms? So you're like, you've got to be almost like a gymnast to like crawl and morph yourself into these little holes.
Yeah, like that character. I don't know if you ever watched The X-Files. But that weird bendy one that
do you know what? Weirdly, I do know what you're on about. Yeah,
I'm doing a rewatch recently, so it's quite fresh in my mind. But
The X-Files,
he'd be a cracking engineer.
Fucking hell, Pixie, that's a blast from the past. I used to love The X-Files,
I missed it the first time round. It's only recently that I've been watching it.
I can't remember how old I'd been. I reckon probably prime early teenager, maybe 12, 13, 14. That would have been really big. Bit of a schoolboy crush on Gillian Anderson as well, so that helped. That was a great series back in the day.
Yeah,
they stopped it and then did a couple of movies, didn't they? I think.
Yes.
Was that right?
Yeah, and then they did a bit of a reboot. I'm looking forward to it coming back.
They're bringing it back.
Yeah, not with the originals, so not with David and Gillian, unfortunately.
I don't think I could do it then, to be honest, Pixie. I don't think if you're not going to have the originals in it, nah. Do you know what? Actually, again, going way off subject here, one of my favourite series, and this is like a guilty pleasure with the originals recently, has been the whole Cobra Kai thing.
Yes!
Yeah.
I love that. Oh, it's
like me and my wife are like obsessed.
Telly,
oh, it's terrible, but so good.
The acting is
so good.
Abysmal.
Yeah. But it's like every season they manage to dig up some of the old cast of the original Karate Kid films, and it's like, no way, it's him.
It's them from that movie.
Yeah. I think it's been brilliant. Honestly, it's been a real guilty pleasure. I'm glad they're finishing it, but it's been a massive guilty pleasure.
There's only so many times they can jump the shark in a season.
Yeah, true story. Yeah. I don't know about you. I mean, me and my wife have like binge watched that, generally hungover, if I'm honest. It's one of those like, you really don't have to engage your brain to watch it, do you? So it's just proper old-fashioned entertainment. I think that's why I loved it.
Yeah, that's what we've been doing, things like that. Some of the old BBC comedies we've been getting the box sets of. So Ab Fab.
Oh, okay,
doing those on a Friday night. Father Ted.
Fucking hell, yeah.
Yeah, because he never watched it the first time round. Whereas I watched it religiously and could quote the episodes from start to finish. So I'm sat there with my pizza beer, trying not to quote everything.
Yeah. Good times, mate, honestly. Well, now we've had that nostalgia out of the way.
I've got telly out of the way.
Pixie, when you reached out to me and said about coming on today, there was a reason and there's a specific subject and sort of thing that you want to discuss. So let's get into that. Your reasons why, as it were. Again, I'll pass that one over to you.
Yeah, I wanted to discuss, after hearing the menopause episode, of myself and my experiences of somebody who has hit perimenopause, who also suffers from other issues, so endometriosis, fibroids, and PMDD.
Okay. I mean, big shout out, first of all, to Diane. Diane Porterfield-Bourne, who came on and sat and basically explained the menopause to me, and hopefully many other people that listened. And massive thank you to you for coming on now and having gone through it, wanting to expand upon that. I think what we'll do is, you've just mentioned like 3 or 4 things there to me. I could sit here and pretend I know what you're on about. I don't. So let's break down each one, if we can, as to what they are and sort of what the process has been like for you.
Yeah, to be honest, I didn't really know much about it until a couple of years ago myself. I just thought I had mood swings and was just generally one of those women who every so often would go batshit crackers and would be a bit irrational, and that was it. But it turns out it's actually properly a thing. So the PMDD is basically like a hormonal depression.
Yeah.
So you'll be fine for a couple of weeks. Everything's absolutely grand. And then just before period starts, so your luteal, you just, for a lot of people, just hit the abyss.
Okay.
It's dark. It's horrendous. You have those thoughts, and then you come out the other end a few days later, and then you start it all again.
So I think most people will have heard of like PMS.
It's an extreme version of that, basically.
That, but ramped up severely.
And so there's that. The fibroids is, I have what I jokingly call at home the dark passenger. I've got a 11 centimetre fibroid in the uterus somewhere.
11 centimetre? I mean, that's big.
Freaking massive.
Yeah. The fibroid is that, I mean, again...
a non-cancerous growth.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
So you've got an 11 centimetre, I wanted to refer to it as a tumour. Would it be not a tumour? Is that
along those lines, yeah. It's
in the uterus?
Yeah.
Okay. And that's, I mean, how long has that been there, or?
I think they were saying 1 in 2 women have these growths. Yeah, but mostly they don't cause any trouble.
Okay.
They'll just sit in your system, hanging out, not giving you any grief.
Yeah.
It wasn't until I was hospitalised with suspected appendicitis that they found anything anyway.
Really?
It was, the worst pain I have ever experienced. And got told, by the way, you've got this. It was 8 centimetres at the time.
Yeah.
And I got a pat on the head and said, off you go.
But they don't do anything about it?
There was no interest.
Straight away to me, I'm thinking 11 centimetre growth, surgery, remove.
When it started off being 8, like, are you going to take it out or anything? But said, no, we'll monitor. See us in 6 months and see what happens. And that was 2 years ago.
Really? So are you on some kind of list to have it removed? Is that like in your future, or?
I would like it removed, but waiting lists are absolutely horrendous.
And I guess, would I be right in thinking that because they're saying it's non-cancerous, that it's non-life-threatening, so then it's not a priority?
Yeah.
Let's pause there a moment to say a massive thank you to our headline sponsors, Zinza. Now, I am over the moon that Zinza have got on board to support the Talking Tradesman podcast, because genuinely, we use Zinza products on virtually every job we do in my business as a painter and decorator. Zinza are a renowned and established brand. They do things like primers, sealers, and stain block coatings, and also things like the mold and mildew resistant finishes that they produce. such as the Perma White in front of me here. Zinza are well known for their stain block and adhesion primers, such as Bin and Bullseye 123, and their new product, the Bin Aqua. Zinza's products are well known for their high performance and ease of use. They cater to both the professional and DIY market, and the Talking Tradesmen are once again over the moon to have sponsored with Zinza as our headline sponsor. Now let's get back to the episode.
But what they don't understand is between that and the endometriosis, I am in pain every single day.
Really?
So endo is basically scarring. You can get it anywhere in the body, but for me, it's in the, the lady regions.
Yeah.
So I hurt every day.
Oh, mate.
Sometimes it's just just grumbling away. So today it's a good day. I don't need medication or heat pads or anything, but it can reach the point where I want to go to hospital because I feel like my insides are tearing and falling out.
Fucking hell. And then you combine that with the PMDD, and I can imagine that's a horrendous combination.
Yeah, it's pretty shit.
Christ, Pixie. That sounds rough. I can't lie. I'm not going to sit here and pretend to know how you feel either, because, I've had various things happen to me throughout my life where I've been in pain, but to be in pain daily with something, is there anything that can be done? Or
not really. They can go in and take the fibroid out, which I'm hoping to do at some point, but the first treatment option that was given to me was the full hysterectomy.
Right.
Which was, funnily enough, where I started learning about menopause.
I was going to say, because that would bring on menopause instantly, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I was doing a lot of reading, not understanding any of it. Thankfully, the boyfriend was, he's got a few more grey cells than I have, and he's a lot better with these things than I have. But he was doing a lot more reading and investigation and realised that the medication that they would have given me to help prepare for the hysterectomy throws you into menopause. And those symptoms I had started to suffer from.
Right. Okay.
So, yeah, I was suffering from the brain fog, the aches in the joints, itchiness, the night sweats, not sleeping.
Yeah.
You started spotting all of these patterns, and then over the few months it was getting worse and worse, and that was when I started seeing specialists about it to actually try and get a diagnosis.
Yeah.
Which is difficult at 39, which is a little bit young. Not crazy.
I was going to say that's not. Yeah, I think when I spoke to Diane, I mean, she said like 40 to 45, 46 is normal onset. So you're not miles away, are you?
Not at all.
They
say you start showing symptoms 10 years before. So if you think, it's going to be
10 years before.
Wow. Yeah, this could go on for a decade.
Right. Yeah. I think one of the biggest things that surprised me when I spoke to Diane previously, when we were talking about perimenopause and menopausal symptoms, was I erroneously thought that it was like you had those symptoms in the build-up to menopause, then menopause was like this thing, almost like a switch. Yep. And then once you'd had it, it was switched off. So all those symptoms then went away, and you'd gone through the change.
When you go out on the ice float and come back. I think
that's part of the problem, though. When you call something the change, it sounds very mysterious, black and white, though. But like the change, but once it's happened, you are changed. So I kind of think caterpillar, butterfly. Like you were this, now you're that, and that does not have those problems anymore. But that's not the truth, is it?
No.
The fact is that once you start with your perimenopausal symptoms, those symptoms stay with you potentially all the way through now.
Yeah. And you need the treatment options available. And I'm sure you're of the same generation where HRT gives you breast cancer.
Yeah.
So you can't take it.
Yeah.
Or I've spoken to other women and they've said that they won't take it because it's made from pregnant horse urine. So because they like animals, they don't want to take this medicine.
Right.
Yeah. There are a lot of myths around it.
Right. I mean, let's clarify. What do you know and where do you sit on it?
The old medication. So, what was it called? Is it Premarin? Yeah, that one isn't used anymore. It was used, was it a decade or so ago? So it's obsolete medication. What they use now is body identical. So it's exactly the same as what I would produce anyway.
Yeah, that rings a bell. When I spoke to Diane, she was saying a similar thing, that, it's essentially to mimic your body's hormones.
Yeah.
Yeah. So have you gone down that route?
Yes.
Yeah. And the result has been?
Oh, night and day.
Really?
Yeah, okay. I struggled because I was going through all the other lady complaints. I went to a specialist for help for everything. And they said, right, okay, we can't help you so much with all of this pain suspect. But with the perimenopause, no, you're not perimenopausal, you're just depressed. Have you tried taking SSRIs for it? Which I have done in the past. I took a lot of them on high doses and they didn't help because I wasn't suffering from a mental illness. I was suffering from a hormone deficiency.
Yeah. It's we had this conversation pre-record, but I find, and I'll repeat it now, I find it astounding that the amount of knowledge is so low. Speaking as a man, I know for a fact that most men know nothing all about menopause. We've heard the word, we've heard the terminology, the change. Most of us, if I'm honest, I'm being completely brutal now, my previous sort of understanding of menopause was, at some point around the age of 50, a woman's going to get a bit moody for a bit.
Yep.
And then she's going to go through the menopause, no longer be able to have babies, and then she'll be okay again. And that's just me being brutally honest. Obviously, thankfully now I'm a lot more educated in it, mainly thanks to Diane. But yeah, I think most men, if they were being honest, would probably be sat in the same camp I was. Because certainly nobody in my lifetime ever said to me, Russ, you need to learn about this.
Exactly the same.
So
I have no female members of my family. So it's just my dad. His partner has already got, she had a hysterectomy years ago. So she wasn't able to offer any advice with it. So everything I've learned has been through the internet, through Instagram, through various people putting information out there. Not a lot of it has actually been from the GPs.
Yeah.
Because I got told that numerous times by, was it 2 or 3 different doctors that I couldn't possibly have it. It was only when I went to a private actual menopause clinic in Bristol where they took everything seriously and said, right, the pain's not right, you need to have a look at this. Try getting tested for endometriosis. It was then that actually got me the diagnosis.
Really?
Random tangent. Apologies. The random statistic for that is that on average it takes 7 years to get a diagnosis for endo.
Why?
At the moment, I'm pretty sure it's going to be higher than that, because to even get an appointment with the gynecologist, it takes 12 months waiting list. So if you think you are living with day-to-day issues, you wait to see a GP, you get on the list, you wait another year, and then the only way they've been able to in the past is to diagnose it is to go actually inside. So do the operation, have a look in various points and see. There is a new treatment available, new diagnostic thing available where they can do a scan and find out. And that was how I found out about mine, thankfully, which is why it was picked up so quickly from the initial medical person actually saying, do you have this? To diagnosis. Where going to that clinic was life-changing, because I have been gaslit, ignored by so many doctors in my time. It was the first time where they actually took me seriously, listened, and said, this is not okay. And they paid attention to the symptoms that I was describing and said, yes, I think you're right. You do have perimenopause, which is insane. I'm going to these people asking for help to be told, no, you're fine.
How was that feeling at the moment where you actually got acknowledgement and they said, yes, it's this?
I cried because it was that validation that I wasn't insane, I wasn't hysterical, and I was being listened to. I've got a few friends now that are of a certain age, and I spend a little bit too much time on Reddit, and you get the same story over and over again. No, you're not. No, you're not. You couldn't possibly be. And as Diane was chatting about, there is no specific test for menopause. There are no particular blood markers where it shows up, but the way you diagnose it is by the symptoms. But your medical practitioners aren't listening to the symptoms to prescribe. You end up in this horrendous roundabout of.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the key things to bear in mind, my mindset on it is that GP stands for general practitioner, i.e. general, not specialist. And just on a human capacity, I guess you can't really expect them to know everything about everything, you know. But when they seem to be completely inept at certain things, obviously the best move you ever made was going private to that clinic.
Yeah.
So my own personal experience with the NHS has not been amazing. And I say this not to take shots at the NHS, because I think the organisation, if it works as it's meant to, is great.
It's a beautiful idea.
The
people working it, the nurses.
Fantastic people. Yeah.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
My best mate's in the industry. She's, amazing. She does such good work. But the organisation as a whole, there is no support, especially when the mental health comes into view.
Oh, yeah. I feel as an emergency service, the NHS is brilliant. So if you're involved in a crash, an accident, and you need an ambulance, they're there and they will look after you and try their best to help you there and then. The problem with long-term conditions or specialist conditions, anything like that.
Invisible illnesses.
Yes. However, rightly or wrongly, I had a change of mindset on the whole situation probably about 3-4 years ago now. And it was actually watching my father. So my father had to have a hip replacement. Was it hip replacement? Or it was his hip. No, I'm trying to remember, because he's got a bad hip and a bad knee, and he had one replaced and not the other. Hip replacement. And it took 2 years, and he was bone on bone. Agony every time he moved. And it was through COVID times, and he was meant to be operated on within 3 months, and it ended at 2 years. His surgeon went off ill, and they wouldn't put him on another surgeon's list. He had to wait, and they kept booking him in as if the surgeon had come back. And then when he'd get to his pre-op, they'd go, "Oh, sorry, your surgeon's still off sick, so we'll put you back." And every time it was like 3 months. We'll just keep trying. And my dad, being my dad of the generation he's in, he don't like to complain.
Stick up a lip.
Yeah,
Carry on.
Okay. But he got to the point, and I've spoken to him, where he said he had times that were very dark because of the constant pain, and really affected his mental health. And watching that and a few other things I'd heard, me and my wife made the decision to go private and get a good level of private health cover. And I would advocate that to anyone that's able to afford it. And the way I see it as a small business owner, I see it as insuring part of my business.
Yeah.
Because, and it was a friend of mine that put it to me when I was discussing it, and he'd got private cover. I was like, "Oh, mate, it's a lot of money." And do you know what? Actually, it's not. I mean, to full disclosure, myself and my wife have got a high level of private health cover, and we pay about £180 a month for the two of us. And that means that I can go to, say I do blew my knee out, I can pick like any knee specialist in the UK. There's only one level of cover above, which would be international treatment, which I haven't got. I've used it once, incredible service. But my point being, I now feel I absorb that as a business cost now, because a friend of mine said to me, he said, "You insure your van, you insure your tools, you've got all these insurances, but you won't insure yourself. Like, what are you playing at? Without your business."
Back in the day insured her backside.
Yeah, exactly.
Why aren't we insuring ours?
And don't get me wrong, cost of living crisis, everybody's trying to cut costs. But for the argument's sake, for 200 quid for two of us, and I know, because I've used it, that if something happens, I can get immediate high-level treatment. I just see that as a business cost now. Because if I'm off work, then my business, I can lose thousands a week. So why wouldn't I pay that to insure myself? And I would be an advocate now to sort of say to people, let's be real about the situation. The NHS is struggling, crumbling, and in my opinion, in many areas, failing.
Yes.
You've got to take the responsibility into your own hands and try to cover yourself. From this point on, maybe Just to illustrate, I'm not going to talk too much about myself, but I'll cut this story down as quickly as possible. I hurt my knee. I've got something called a Baker's cyst in my knee, and I'd aggravated it. But I didn't know what it was at the time. So I went to my doctor. After I think it took me 2 weeks to actually get an appointment after getting a phone call. It was more than that, actually, to get an appointment. Then I went to the appointment and they said, right, we're going to prescribe you 6 months of physio. And I went, but you don't know what it is. And they were like, yeah, I know what you're saying. I said, well, look, surely I need a scan. And they went, we can't refer you to a scan until you've had physio. And I was like, but physio can't do anything without knowing what the problem is. Anyway, they wanted to give me 6 months worth of physio, but there was a 6-month waiting list.
Exactly the same issue with my shoulder.
Yeah.
I had to wait 10 months for mine.
Well, that would have been 12 months to the point where then they'd have gone, it still isn't working. Now we'll ask for a scan. Then I'd have had to wait for a scan. So we're looking at over a year's process to find out what was wrong with my knee. With my private cover, I mentioned to my doctor, I said, well, look, I've got private cover. Can I not go with that? And they went, oh, we'll refer you straight over to a specialist hospital. Within 24 hours, I had a phone call from the private hospital saying, can you come tomorrow to see like a leading knee specialist? And I was like, well, actually, I'm at work. So I put it back, I think, about 3 days until I went. I went and saw the specialist and he said, physio would have been a complete waste of time. We don't know what it is. I was like, well, that's what I thought. Yeah. I'm not a doctor, but I thought that's just common sense to me. We'll book you in for an MRI. And I said, well, how long's the wait on that? He said, I'll walk you down there now. So walked me down to the MRI department, who again wanted to give me the scan the following day. Again, I was working, so I had to. The whole process, though, cutting the long story short, took 2 weeks to have 2 consultations, an MRI, and then treatment for the actual issue that I had. 2-week process, opposed to over 12 months to get an answer.
Yeah.
And to me, as a self-employed tradesman,
you haven't got time for stuff like that. While they're too busy messing around and putting you on lists, you're having to throw jobs back.
Yeah.
Because you physically can't do it.
Just struggling pain, which was what I'd been doing. So, I mean, coming back to you now, that's the thing though, isn't it? Mm-hmm. The NHS now are under so much pressure. They're so understaffed. The waiting lists are so long.
I had to wait, was it a month between being told I needed another MRI to actually getting it done? And then it was another month before I could get the results back and speak to the specialist about it.
Yeah. That one blows my mind as well. My mom has just gone through cancer treatment and she had a scan and they got the result. And similar thing, she was told they'd done the scan, they'd got the results, and she's going out of her mind because it was the scan to tell her whether it had spread. But she had to wait weeks and weeks and weeks for the consultant to sit down and look at her.
Yeah.
And to me, I'm like, fuck, if you got the results, just tell me. You know what I mean?
This isn't just anything. This is your mum.
Mm.
This is our family. This is us. We're not a statistic.
Yeah. But weirdly, and again, I think it comes down to not putting yourself at the highest level of priority. My mother, she could afford private treatment, but doesn't, because her viewpoint on it is, well, I've paid for the NHS all my life. If the dog gets ill, straight to the vets. If you end up with a £6,000 bill for the dog, course, not a problem. But would you pay £800 for a private scan? Oh, no, because I can go to the NHS.
Yeah, I dropped about £1,000 into various scans and seeing specialists and blood tests. The first load were no good because, as I said, it was no, you're fine. But yeah, that second load, getting that validation and thinking, oh my God, how long would I have had to have waited? They actually shut the lists when too many people put in for it, because obviously they have is it the 18-week waiting time on the NHS for treatment? So too many people coming forward, they'll just shut the books. And I think there is only one hospital in our region, not just covering Bristol, this is other counties as well, just one hospital doing the menopause clinic. How many months would I have to have waited to have spoken to somebody?
Hold on, though, Pixie. One hospital doing a menopause clinic when every single woman in the United Kingdom is going to go through that at some stage in their life.
Yeah.
You would think, given the nature, and I'll repeat that, every single woman in the UK will go through the menopause at some point in their life. You would think there would be like a menopause clinic on every street corner, really. Maybe not street corner. I don't know why I went to street corner, but somewhere in the local town. You know, I've made it sound like a takeaway. Then just driving, go through a drive-through. But it should almost be that common. You'd think.
Yeah.
You know,
hugely.
And I'll still sit here now when I'll put it in context, and I just can't understand why. One, we're not educated, and two, there isn't like a huge facility, I guess, to accommodate women going through menopause. You know, like, I don't know what it would be, drop-in centres, specialist centres.
Yeah, it needs to be.
These kind of things. I had the conversation with Diane, and I actually said, you know, from a partner's, but so my wife, she'll love me for saying this, is
That's the polite way of saying this.
my wife is 43. She'll be 44 next year, so she's in that kind of time of life. I would definitely be happy to like go along to like a couples clinic, just like an informative thing. Like, okay, you're at this time, almost like a, you know, like the maternity parent-child thing, or parent, what even do they call those? You know, where you go with your wife when they're pregnant, whatever those things are. But like a menopause version of that. Like, okay, we're at this stage of life now. Let's just get equipped. It's coming. Let's just get ready. Let's know what to look for. Let's know what's available.
Because it's not just her going through it alone. She has you to rely on. So she'll have those days where she doesn't realise. I get it, you know, we nearly had a bust up the other day. But I didn't realise how I was talking. Because all I knew was that I was too hot. I was itchy. I was tired. It was the end of the week and I'm just on edge. And I didn't realise what was coming out of my mouth was way too sharp and unnecessary. And I'm taking it out on him.
Yeah.
But I don't realise that I'm doing it. It's only when he's gone, you know, what's wrong? You're snapping. Is there an issue? Thank God he was able to come in from that perspective, because you can imagine somebody who wasn't as relaxed and informed. You know, you come in, your other half is speaking to you like absolute crap. You're going to bite back.
Yeah.
But thankfully he was like, what's wrong? And I realised what I was doing and immediately thought, oh, shit. Watch your voice.
Yeah.
Because you don't realise you're doing it. But if you go in with somebody, you know, go in for these appointments and realise that some days she's just going to be arsey. It's not you, you know, although put your shoes in the corner. But those little things will set off.
Again, I mean, it's not all about us. Obviously, it's women that are going through what they're going through. But from a partner's perspective as well, and being a man and going on to like stereotypical conversation here, but like me personally, which, you know, I'm well entitled to talk about how I feel. I feel like in my household, I guess I'm the provider protector. My wife's very independent. She's got her own businesses and all the rest of it, but I still feel like that's my job. So what I mean by that is if she comes in and something's wrong, my automatic reaction is, okay, what have I done wrong? How do I fix this? The reality is in that situation, you can't. But if you're not aware of what the situation is, it would be an automatic reaction to go, okay, this is my fault somehow. She's angry at me. Maybe she doesn't love me. Maybe the relationship's going down the pan. Maybe she's not interested in me. And we talked about it with Diane openly, like the change in sex drive. It's a difficult one to negotiate because, again, as the partner, your natural reaction is she's obviously gone off me.
Yeah.
You know, and there's all these things. And again, I think it could be massively addressed by just information and education. We talk pre-record about suicide rates and the huge correlation. I mean, I know you've brought your research, so I'll pass that one back over to you.
So they've done surveys recently. 1 in 10 women will experience suicidal thoughts. 9 in 10 struggle with mental health. And the highest risk of suicide in women is 45 to 55.
9 in 10
will
suffer with mental health through that period. 9 in 10.
So I look at it from my perspective. I've got PMDD, so I'm likely to slip into the darkness anyway. I've got the hormonal issues to throw me off balance. If I don't watch myself and keep an eye on how I'm feeling, what I'm doing, am I eating, am I sleeping, it's so easy to just go off the deep end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you, by the sounds of it, Pixie, you're like on the extreme end of the scale where you've got all of it against you. Hope you don't mind me saying that, because I don't want to be doom and gloom. But how do you manage it? Like, how do you cope with it?
Some days I don't. And I had an episode a couple of months back, and I couldn't do anything. I was exhausted. I couldn't think straight. I can't process. And you don't realise that you're ill. If you've cut yourself, you can see that you're bleeding, you've got a problem. But when it's been a slow catch up and you don't realise what you're doing, and that little inner voice inside you isn't going, oi, what are you doing? Yeah, you just don't realise you're in the middle of it. And I remember being sat on the end of my bed, absolutely bawling, because I had no idea what I was doing. Just completely lost. And I just started treatment at that point. So the estrogen gel hadn't started to kick in yet. But I'm thinking, how long do I have to stay like this? Will it get better? Can I get better? Is this just who I am now?
Yeah. I think one of the things, to me, when it comes to life, I think we as a society, we've got a weird perception on life, because the emphasis always seems to be on living the longest.
Yeah.
Like, you've had a good life if you live to 90 or 100 or whatever. I don't agree with that. I believe it's quality of life. I personally, my own view, I would rather live a happy and fulfilled life to 60 than a prolonged life to 100 where I'm not happy. And what the reason I bring this up was the previous conversation about HRT and does it increase breast cancer? Does it do these kind of things? I would even think that if you can take HRT and give yourself quality of life back, that it would be worth the trade-off.
Why wouldn't you? Referring back to my notes, apologies, perimenopause, brain squirrels. There was a study in 2016. So even when you were taking the older style of the HRT, the risk of breast cancer was greater if you're overweight and not exercising. So you have all of these surveys which have been like misconstrued, blown out of proportion, wrong evidence in one of the cases, but it doesn't actually cause it. You're more of a risk if you don't watch what you're eating, if you're starting to get a bit larger and don't pay attention to that. That's not broadcast. It's just, no, HRT is evil, must be banned. The benefits outweigh
the risk.
Yeah. So if I wasn't to keep taking my meds, that I'd read like the perimenopause bingo call sheet. I wouldn't be sleeping. I've had to have my treatment adjusted again this week, so I've kind of had the refresh on how shite it can get. But you don't sleep. When you do sleep, you wake up covered in sweat. And if I don't get 8 or 9 hours sleep, I'm a right miserable cowbag.
Well, I'm the same. I am the same, honestly. I'm so fucking precious over my sleep.
Yep.
Honestly. I read a book actually called, I think it's Why We Sleep by Matthew Walker. Fascinating, but it made me a little bit obsessed with sleeping. So I'm like, I need, and there's hell to pay if I don't get my 8, 9 hours. I am a different person. I can feel it in myself.
Yeah.
The difference in me between 8, I can cope on 7, but 6 is not enough sleep for me.
Not at all.
So yeah, anything below that, fuck me, watch out. Like, it's
get off the roads.
Yeah, pretty much.
Oh dear. So you combine that with the mood swings. So I can be, nice and fine and bouncy and either angry or in tears the next. Something on the radio set me off the other day. I'm driving down the road, absolutely bawling. Like, why? It was nothing.
Yeah.
Can't get through a TV show without, weeping. And then, your irrational things. You got to shut the fridge and it doesn't quite shut, and you suddenly blow up at the fridge. What are you angry with a door for? It's an inanimate object. Calm down. These things. And then the itching, the aching, which they don't talk about. I was worried I was getting dementia and arthritis because it wasn't that I was going daft. It was too forgetful. It's that I'd forget the words for things, or I'd use them in the wrong context, or I'd be at the boiler, I'd be checking everything and say, that's 74, brilliant. I look away and think, shit, what was that number? You have to keep redoing everything, because unless you write it down there and then, it's in the ether. And then some of the brain fog, for me, it's like my brain is weighed down. On a good day, I've got a couple of thoughts going through my head. I'm sitting here having the conversation, but I'm also thinking of, if I got enough fuel in the van to get back. Of course I have, all of these things. And on my bad days, I can't keep the one going because it just slows. And so at work, I need to be switched on.
Yeah.
That's why I have my routine with what I'm doing. I'll check certain things at certain points. If this needs doing, then I'll stop. That gets fixed, and then I'll carry on with the service. So, that's one of my coping mechanisms with it.
But you need to be educated in order to develop those, don't you?
Which is why the last 6 months have been awful. Thinking that you've got dementia and that's going to be, you're just one of those people. Late 30s, surprise, you're going to be on that slow spiral
of decline, as it were. We talked again pre-record, didn't we, about one of the things being self-employed and a tradesperson is no matter what's gone on, and you're going through all this, but when you go knock Mrs. Smith's door, it's always, "Oh, you, Mrs. Smith, how are you? You have a good weekend?" "Yeah, I had a good weekend. Yeah, I'm good.
Oh,
I'm good."
Terrible, isn't it? Ooh.
"Oh, look, weather, it's a bit cold today, isn't it? The sun's out, but yeah, I'm good." It's always, "I'm good." I mean, well, rightly so. You're never going to turn up and go, "Do you know what? Actually, I'm fucking terrible." But the point is, we all have to wear this mask, don't we? That we put on as a business owner. Everything's always got to be okay. And sometimes you're a broken person.
Yeah.
You're hiding behind this mask of everything's okay. And it's one of the hard things about the trades. Again, I've mentioned it so many times, but to highlight, it's the worst industry in the UK to be in for suicides. And yes, it is true, males make up a much bigger proportion of people that take their own lives than women. But interestingly, I don't know if you saw, the ONS statistics came out last week, and male suicide is at close to a 25-year high, its highest figures since 1999. Yeah. Female suicide is actually at its highest since 1993. So not only is the case of male suicide getting worse, but females suicide is also getting worse.
Yeah.
And I mentioned a few times in the past, I haven't mentioned it for a while, but it almost sounds like a morbid curiosity, because obviously I hope it isn't the case, but it interests me to see, because there is a rise in women coming into construction. I see that very much in my trade. There's a lot of ladies coming in. I think it's brilliant. Some incredible female tradespeople. I wonder, though, in what has generationally been a male-dominated industry, as that changes and the scales balance a bit more, will it still be that more men are taking their own lives, or will it be the pressure of being in the industry that then increases females taking their own life? It's a bit of a morbid curiosity.
It's an interesting perspective, because, as you say, it's very isolating. You're in the van, you're in the zone, but you can ignore the phone, stick that on mute. But it's just you, steering wheel, road, job, right in the... Because you're just talking to the customer, you don't have to get deep into subjects, it's just about the tea, coffee, biscuit, whatever, move on. So you're constantly... I found I was just in my own head, just constantly picking at that feeling. So when I am having my dark days, I'm there. Because I haven't got that person sat next to me to help bring me out of it.
It's a big one. Yeah.
You know, it's why I'm such a great fan. I'm random, but social media.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I've got a few really close friends through that. And if it wasn't through Facebook or Instagram, I wouldn't know these people.
Yeah.
But they're amazing. You know,
I think we all know, we feel it, you know. It's interesting actually you saying that, because the two worst affected trades in construction are painters, decorators and plasterers, worst affected for mental health and suicide rates. However, my judgment on that is because they're the finishing trades, therefore more likely to work in isolation. You're the last one in. If you're a brickie or a sparky or chippy, generally you might be working on site, there's normally other people around. The finishing trades are more likely to be on their own, but your trade, being a heating engineer, is on par.
It's
You know,
similar, yeah. You
yeah.
don't
Although
hang out with
yes,
people
you see
unless
the
you're part of a crew.
customer. Yeah,
Which, I'm one of the ones that I do work on my own. It's not very often that I would work with somebody on a job.
Going around servicing domestic boilers, yeah, I wouldn't have thought, unless you've got an apprentice, you are going to be quite solitary. And the customer interaction, to me, is very rare. And of course, with you, I mean, for me, for example, I might be on a job like last week. I was on a job, I think 7 working days all in all. So day 1 to day 7 is very different. By day 7, you've built up a bit of rapport. There's maybe a bit of banter, maybe a bit more personal information.
You know the name of their kids,
Yeah.
that kind of thing.
But as a heating engineer, I would imagine a lot of the time you're in and out within a few hours. So there's not really that chance to develop in anything more than, all right, love, you know, decent weather, you know, the fluff, as it were, non-meaningful fluff. But in the meantime, after you've put that smile on and walked back to the van to get your parts, you're back in your own head.
Yeah. And when you've got that fatigue that's hanging with you as well, being able to put that face on and talk to somebody becomes harder and harder. So you do get known as being a miserable bastard. You're genuinely not. It's the fact that you've got all of this going on, but you're too tired to put a smile on and be nice and friendly because you just can't do it.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the reasons why tradies have that reputation for being miserable, is because they just can't be asked anymore. They know they're going to be out in 40 minutes. What's the point in putting a face on? So, another one of the famous random tangents.
No, it's interesting. This is why I love these conversations, Pixie, because I do sit here and, you know, light bulbs go off in my head, and you saying that, I'm just reflecting on it, and genuinely I'm like, yeah, actually, you're making a good point. It's
the one that I can't hide, though. It's so I remember the first time it happened, I was mortified, but I'm in the middle of servicing a boiler and I start getting a hot flush. It's like, oh shit. I get the prickles, the heat, I'm too hot, I can't breathe, I gotta get out. Thankfully though, this woman was also going through it, and she's like, oh, don't worry love, I'll get you a fan. So I'm there with a random boiler gasket waving it at myself, but no, she's set up a couple of fans and I'm able to, you know, calm down, breathe. But it was so random, but she was absolutely gorgeous, so lovely with it. So
you've got those like heartwarming interactions dotted in there.
After that, I just thought, sod it, what's the point in hiding?
Oh god, yeah.
If I'm having a moment, I'm having a moment. I'm only human.
But this is what I mean though, Pixie, the more we talk, and you're doing your part doing that today, that's why, you know, thank you again for coming in and being so open, because the more people that talk about this, the more people know. And that's what it is a lot of the time. It's just ignorance is, you know, the reason behind the, oh, she's fucking miserable. It's ignorance, because it's when people know. And for me, a massive part of my sort of like understanding, I started studying psychology about 10 years ago. And it just shifted everything. It really did. It's frustrating at times because I find it really hard to get pissed off with people now. Like somebody can be a complete arsehole, and my automatic reaction used to be, I want to chin him. But now I'm like, I wonder what they're going through. But it's a good way to be, you know. You look at people's behaviour. Nobody wants to be unhappy.
No.
Not one fucking person wakes up in the morning and thinks, today I am going to be a miserable bastard because that's what I want to do.
I'm going to upset 17 people and 3 of them are going to be in Tesco's.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Nobody does that. Everyone wants to be happy. Everyone would love their default to be, I am happy today. So if they're not, why are they not? What's going on? Like, what's the reason behind that? But yeah, I mean, moving forwards for you, the one question I want to go back to with the endometriosis, and you mentioned hysterectomy. Would that solve it? Like, is the scarring, is that all in that area, and they're just talking about removing it? No,
because it can crop up in other areas. The strangest place they found endometriosis scarring has been the brain. Which makes no sense. Yeah.
So scarring, I think trauma, impact, cuts, that's what I think of with scarring. What causes scarring?
That's one thing I'm not too sure on.
No.
Yeah, that's above my pay grade, unfortunately.
That's fair enough.
Science. It's all I know is that it bloody hurts.
Yeah.
Yeah, trying to deal with the pain every day, it gets very difficult and very exhausting.
I bet it does, yeah.
My job is a lot of leaning down, stretching up, and obviously that can aggravate in the middle. So yeah, when you are reaching up with that boiler and you're in so much agony, you've got your heat pad on underneath and you can see the customer kind of looking at you like, what the hell's that sticking out on the top of your trousers? And then you've got to explain it's not a colostomy bag or anything. It's just a heat pad. And sometimes they'll just recoil away because it's women's issues. They'll go, oh, fair enough. Yeah, my cousin suffers. And then, but what are they saying? 1 in 10 women suffer from endometriosis.
I mean, like I say, that is a lot of people. 1 in 10. I mean, the average school class is 30. So, 30 of the people you were at school with, 3 of them are going to suffer with it.
Yeah.
It's, it's a lot. And again, a lot and not a lot known about it.
Oh, so little. Even pain medication, all the tests were done on men. So it wasn't until a few years ago that they actually started doing tests with women. Really? Sanitary products weren't actually tested with blood.
I mean, what were they tested with?
Exactly.
Actually, I'll sidetrack again, but I read an article the other day that was saying that the tampon was actually invented for like World War II or something. It was there for like stop blood clotting in war injuries. Same as super glue, isn't it? It was also invented for war purposes. But yeah, mad, isn't it?
Yeah, technology hasn't really moved forward.
Not really. No, actually, yeah. Do you know what? Yeah, when you say that, something that was invented to stop bullet wounds is now used as a woman's sanitary product. Yeah, and like you say, it hasn't been reinvented. So
training's exactly the same. There are a lot of doctors on Instagram that are coming forward and are saying they either had no training in menopause or they had like an afternoon in it or an hour.
Fucking hell.
One of the biggest advocates for it is Dr. Louise Newson. She's amazing. Do a bit of Instagram research on her. She's got clinics, so much information out there from this woman. She's brilliant. And she held her hands up and said, I was barely trained. This was, she still is, GP. And as you were saying, 50% of the population, and these people are not getting the information that they need, so it's not getting filtered down. It's only through random people like her, through Davina McCall, through other people in the media, that this is actually becoming a thing now. It's actually being investigated. How many places at work have a menopause policy? And what's in the menopause policy?
Yeah.
Because not every woman is going to suffer from the sweats. So additional uniform and things like that need to be put in place. Breathable uniform is another one.
Yeah. And I guess as well, I mean, not every woman is going to, like you've sat here very openly discussing everything. I would imagine a lot of people are quite private about it as well and try and hide it.
And if you imagine, like somebody in the industry that we're in, you're surrounded by blokes all the time. Your manager is going to be a bloke.
Yeah. His
boss is going to be a dude.
Who statistically probably knows nothing about what you're talking about. Then you're in a position where you perhaps have to go and approach a male who is very unaware and uneducated. And to be honest, it's not a nice position for anyone, because I know if I was in a management, I'm sat in the office and a lady comes and presents herself and is like, look, I've got these issues. I'd be sat there thinking, oh, fuck. Oh, yeah, exactly. Like shrinking
women,
backwards.
deer in
Like,
headlights.
what do I do about this? What do I say? Because there is no clear guidance, no clear policy, no at the work, menopause at the workplace policy. And do you know what? Again, this is hitting me now. There should be a very clear framework that all employers can abide by, like almost like a non-smoking policy, like this. Everyone has it. There should be a menopause policy in every workplace.
Yeah,
and that would just make it easier for everyone. Make it easier for women. Make it easier for the management that have to implement things.
That's it. You go through training if you have, younger people coming in. How to treat them in the industry.
Yeah.
Why? Because it's a natural part of life. Why is it not part of the training?
100%.
You have equalities and diversity. You'll have, safe working practices going up a ladder, but part of your management skills should be how to manage
definitely
this problem. And it's not going to be one size fits all. Different women are going to present different problems at different points. And just because they've got the diagnosis and started treatment, it doesn't mean they're not going to have a relapse.
Yeah. Should almost be like, like everywhere has a first aider, don't they? Maybe every workplace should have a female,
yes,
like menopause, looking for the word, correspondent.
Yeah.
But do you know what I mean? Like, again, mental health is another thing that workplaces are starting to implement.
Mental health first aider.
Yeah, exactly. Some, not all, but some companies are appointing those, and there should be somebody for menopause.
Needs to be, because it's so humiliating to go to your male management team and go, I have this private feminine issue.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
It's bad enough when, because part of the issue with endo and fibroids is heavy bleeding. Sometimes that will happen through your clothes.
Yeah.
And to go to your team and go, look, I need to go home, this has happened, is mortifying.
I bet, yeah.
I had it once in a job, and it was a female supervisor, funnily enough. And even talking to her, I couldn't find the words. So I had to go through all the euphemisms, even though it's, completely, it was a normal bodily function, but it was still, I'm going to be late. Why? Because I will be, I'll explain later. And then getting brought into the office over something like that.
Do you know what, Pixie? The more I think about it now, the worse it seems that there's literally nothing in place. I think we need to get ourselves down to pot. Right, we'll start a petition. Right, Pixie, you need to start a petition. I'll push it on here. Everybody sign up to this. But, I mean, we're making a joke out of it. Realistically, it fucking should be there. There's so many things. I mean, I think most workplaces know how to deal with pregnant women. Not every woman's going to get pregnant.
No.
Every woman's going to go through the menopause. Why is there nothing in place?
Yeah. Where's the education? Why don't we know what we're going through?
It's fucking mad.
It
really is.
Conversation at school. I remember we were segregated into our girl group and the boy group. The boys had explained what was going to happen to them. The girls had explained that they were going to have periods at some point. Here's a bag full of stuff. Here's a pamphlet. Ask your mum.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why are we not in the same class? This is what's going to happen to us. This is what happened to you. This is what happened to you. And then later on, this is going to happen. If it's a young group of kids, you can modify the science and everything explaining. But why the hell are we not getting it at 16 when we're leaving school?
Yeah. Even moving beyond that, I mean, you look at things like there are, people are quite tuned in like with spiritual stuff these days, or, I mean, fucking pick anything. There's yoga classes, right, for example. Why is it not a normal thing to have a menopause class? Like I said, just a community thing where at the community hall, once a month, there's somebody such as, like somebody in the position Diane's in, that holds a menopause class that is openly advertised, and I've never seen anything like that. I apologise if they do exist. Obviously, I've never been actively looking for them, but I don't think they do.
No, you have your bums, tums, and whatever group for this.
Yeah.
You have your new mum course. You've got your easy swims at the gym.
Yeah.
Why isn't there something to do with that?
Exactly. I mean, if you take a county or an area, I wonder how many women in the demographic of the age group 40 to 50 there are. There's got to be enough
How many support groups
to account.
are there?
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
I've not been able to find any. There may be. I'll probably get a message at some point.
Well, hopefully you do. Do you know what, Pixie? Hopefully you are wrong. Hopefully I'm wrong. Hopefully there's loads of support. We've just never seen it. But I'm hesitant to think that that's the case. I think it might be more towards a case that there isn't, and there really should be.
To be told that you're not alone with it all as well. You don't have to suffer by yourself.
And it's so serious. I mean, with what you were going through and the dark times that you were in, that's really serious. And to not feel that there's anyone that understands you or can offer support. Fortunately, you found it. But imagine if you didn't.
I went through a state in my early 20s where I was not good. And I don't talk about this very often. But I went through a point of self-harming because I didn't know how to process what was going on. And during my last peri dip, I felt how I did back then. I couldn't process what was going on with my feelings, and I needed an outlet. I didn't go down that route again because I was able to lean on my partner, my friends for support. They've been amazing, huge, thanks to you guys. But not everybody has my friends.
Yeah.
Nobody else has my other half to rely on. How many other women are sat there thinking, my partner's not listening to me, my GP's not listening to me, I couldn't possibly be perimenopause because I'm only 38, I'm only 39, to be told, no, you can't get the help. Your blood tests are fine. You're just hysterical.
That's frightening.
Abysmal. I was so lucky to have had the money to go private, to have known about it in the first place, to have the other half looking out for me. But it's anybody listening to this, it's not right to feel like that. It really isn't. Advocate, fight, get the help.
Oh, it's a good point, Pixie, that you've brought us to. If there is anyone that's listening to this that is resonating with anything that you've said, or even anyone listening to this that thinks that sounds like partner, brother, sister, whatever, that you could tell them to listen to this episode. And if it is resonating with anyone, what's step one?
GP, speak to them about your symptoms and everything, but if you don't get any joy with them, try and find a private clinic that will help.
And you said there was a lot of information online.
So much, yeah. I started writing my list down, didn't I? Dr. Louise Newson, she's amazing. So her Instagram, she has a podcast that covers everything. So if you're unsure about...
Do you know what it's called?
I think it is just the Dr. Louise Newson podcast.
Okay.
So she talks a lot of things about the different aspects of it. So if there are any fears that you've got, so a lot of the HRT stuff is covered. Who can take it, what to do if you may not be able to, because not one treatment fits all.
Yep.
So different aspects for that. The endo, fibroids, basically anything to do with women's issues, she is a great advocate for. Another on Instagram, the PMDD Collective. Since getting my diagnosis, I've relied on them quite a bit for how to process coping mechanisms, that kind of thing. What kind of supplements, diet tips that will help. It's not going to cure you, but it's giving you as many tools in your bag as possible to bring out at the right point. Let people know that you are struggling.
That's a big one, yeah.
It's gonna be difficult. There will be tears. There'll be snot flying everywhere. But you have to talk, because it can't be fixed if people don't know.
Perfectly said.
It sounds so simple, and it'll be the hardest thing you have to do, to open up and say, I need help. But like, looking at the statistics for all the mental health and everything for women in this age, please, dear God, don't make a permanent ending for a temporary, issue. It's not the end. It is just the evolving into the next part of you. It's your next chapter.
Yeah.
It's going to be a struggle. You're going to need meds. You're going to need that help, that hand, but just don't fucking struggle by yourself.
I mean, Pixie, you've been fantastic in highlighting all of this, being so open about your journey. I'll put your details, obviously, in all the show notes. Are you okay? Like, if anyone wants to reach out to you as a first...
Jesus, do it.
Yeah.
I have no problem. Yeah. If you need anybody to chat, because I've started doing that, I've got no issue.
Brilliant. Okay. Well, Pixie's details will be in the show notes. So, yeah, if anyone wants to reach out, even if you can just signpost people to, like you said, the doctor that you've mentioned, or the support groups, it's just good to have somebody else out there advocating and being able to, listen and know what you're talking about,
Because it's overwhelming. It's so overwhelming. There are so many scraps of hearsay, bullshit. It's trying to find the actual facts, cheat from the waff, that kind of no.
Wheat in the chaff? Is that the right thing?
You can hear my gears just grind then.
Yeah, I'll do it all the time, don't worry. Honestly, I've got my own version of brain fog going on most times, so I can understand that one. But yeah, no, that's brilliant. I'm sat here again in a state of wonder, really,
at how something could get this terrible.
Yeah, and how something so serious can be so shrouded. It seems to be like it's all behind the curtain. And speaking from a man's point of view, most of us are going to look at this and go, "That's women's problems. Nothing to do with us."
It's going to be your sister, because who the hell would want to see their family struggling?
Of course, yeah.
Nobody wants to see their family struggle. They want to give them the help.
And that's the thing. It's this two-sided thing that I'm a big advocate for. Is, you've highlighted the catchphrase of this podcast is "let's talk." But on the flip side of that, and maybe the partners are out there needing to listen to this one, you got to listen. There's got to be somebody to talk to. You've got to be prepared that at some point the women in your life are going to go through this, and there might be struggles. And you've got to listen. You've got to be able to be open enough to ask the questions and be prepared to listen. Because, again, one of the things I've found through doing the podcast is there's a misconception, I believe, around men, and particularly like your stereotypical alpha men, and the building industry, mate. It's full of them. Full of them. But it's not that we don't want to talk. It's that we don't think anyone's listening. Because now, providing this platform, what I've found the overwhelming response has been is people do want to talk. People do want to sit there. They do want to talk about what they've gone through and what they're going through. But a lot of the time they've felt that there's nobody listening.
Nobody cares. I'm just shouting out in the void. That's how you feel.
But people do care.
Yeah.
And you've got the likes of yourself. You've got the likes of the support groups. And well done for making the noise that you're making to try and raise awareness of this. I'm just sorry that you've had to go through what you've had to go through to realise that the support isn't there.
Yeah, I wouldn't have been able to sit here and do this without my little clan, my nearest and dearest. So without my other half, without, my Maria, my Holly, my Gemma, without those guys in my corner saying, you can do this, you can get up, you can.
Do you know what though, Pixie? I feel that, so I studied a lot of like Stoic philosophy, and what that does for you, it kind of turns a lot of negatives into positives. And as shit as it's been for you, you've gone through this now, and what that's done, it's given you this insight that nobody else can have, that this problem is there, and now you're talking about it, now you're shouting about it. So hopefully the process that you've been through and are still going through has given you that purpose, that now you can use everything that you've had to process to try and help others, which is what you're doing, and fucking all credit to you for that.
Speak for those that have no voice.
Exactly. Yeah, that purpose. And I've said this before, but this podcast would not exist if it wasn't for my guests. I don't know how many episodes we're on now, but I think it's something like 45, 46. There wouldn't be 45, 46 episodes of the Talking Tradesman and me sat talking in an empty room. I'm just like the vessel, as it were. It's all you guys that are stepping forwards, and testament to the incredible people in the construction industry, because everyone that has sat there and spoken to me does it because they've gone through some shit and they want to use that to help others.
Yeah, to let somebody else know that they're also going through the shit. They're not alone with it.
Yeah.
There is help available. You've got to fucking look for it.
Yeah.
But I swear to God, it is there.
A massive thank you for you for pointing that out.
Thank you for letting me come in and ramble.
Honestly, it's been a pleasure. You've got my head going again. I'm sat there again thinking, I really find it quite astounding. But before we do wrap things up, is there anything else that we haven't discussed that you want to?
I'll probably remember on the halfway down the M5.
I'll put it in the show notes. Well, if not, though, Pixie, massive thank you for coming in and sharing today and being so open. Hopefully it serves to help others. As we're wrapping up, a big thank you to the Funky Peach Workwear for supplying the guest merchandise, of which I've got a T-shirt and a cap and a few bits to give you in a minute, Pixie. Supplied by those guys, so thank you very much for supplying those and helping support the podcast. That's it for this one. So I'll catch you again on the next one. Thank you for listening.